Hi everyone, welcome to our next session on accessible traveling. My name is Ravi. I work for Action Duchenne, and I work on the Yes I Can transition project. We'll go on one by one. Everyone will introduce themselves, and we'll talk about our experiences and any tips we can give to show you how you can travel if you're in a wheelchair. I'll give it to the next person now.
Hello, I'm Tom. Um, are we just introducing? Oh,
Hi, my name's Sanjeev and I'm from Scotland.
Hello, I'm Kerry Thompson and I'm from the land of the concrete cows and roundabouts, Milton Keynes. Yeah, I can do, yeah. I also work for MD UK on the Changing Places campaign.
I'm Kath, and I work for Pathfinders Neuromuscular Alliance as the youth project lead, Uplift.
Yep, so I can start with my experience. Unfortunately, I haven't been on holiday very much in my life due to, what a lot of people say, a lot of stress and anxiety about how to travel, worried about if my wheelchair will survive the flight there, because I've heard a lot of horror stories where they'll just destroy your wheelchair and you're stuck. But in terms of my experience, my first holiday, I went to Kenya when I was about 6 years old. Obviously, at that age, a lot of us have a lot of mobility, so traveling is not really a big issue. But yeah, I remember my time there was great going to a safari, really enjoying my time, but that's not really a relevant experience because I had a lot of mobility. The next time I went on holiday, I went to Disney World in Florida. I was about 11 or 12 years old. That's when I had to start using a wheelchair. I still had some mobility, so again, the only difficulty I had was having to go to the toilet on the plane. A lot of people have to sit on the chair, maybe put a blanket over themselves, and then go that way. So obviously, your privacy is gone, your dignity is gone, but like a lot of things, we have to compromise on things that we don't want to do, but if we want to go away, what else can we do? But yeah, I hired a wheelchair. I think it's called a town called Kissimmee. I think they advertise it a lot in football and stuff like that. So that accommodation, they had everything we needed. I didn't really need a hoist because I could walk about a bit. So again, there's some relevance, but still, we had some issues. But after that, it took me a while to go on a holiday because I used the wheelchair a lot. I was more scared about going away, maybe different change of environment. I know a lot of boys with Duchenne. Change is a difficult thing for a lot of them. Going away on holiday, it's like, can't do this, can't do that. It's a lot of difficulty to go away. But the next time I went was in Brittany, France. That was about 7, 8 years ago. That was my first holiday without parents. It was going with another charity. There was a lot of other guys and girls with all sorts of disabilities. That was a really fun time because if your parents are not there, you're going to do stuff where you can't do it when they're there. So that was a really great time, and a lot of going out, just having a few drinks and stuff like that. It was a really good time. But after that, yeah, I just got quite scared and worried going out and doing stuff. So, I always had plans to go here, there, everywhere, but sooner or later, it kind of stops when I have to look at organising it, planning, all this stuff. Could take months and months to do it, so it puts me off. But, you know, if I had some help, you know, finance is not a problem. I can save money to do anything. That's not a problem, but there's just the planning, logistics, where to stay, the equipment, it gets too much. But if I had help, maybe I could try again. Okay, thank you.
No, it's all right. With travel experiences for me, I've been away quite a lot. My family, we'd always go away like every year, and we've been like on like by plane and like ferries and also driving places the last few years. Because when I was like younger, like flying's a lot easier because you don't have to like transfer and go through the whole process of going on a plane, which is sometimes not great really. And obviously you worry about if your chair's going to not get damaged or if it's going to get damaged. So yeah, flying is a lot easier when you have more mobility and you're younger. So so we used to go to places like Cyprus and things like that, which was quite good. When we went to Cyprus, I used to stay at this apartments place, and they were really good with like accessibility, and you could hire like all the equipment that you need. So when I used to go there, I wouldn't take my wheelchair, I'd just take a manual one, and then I could hire something there, which was like really useful at the time. But kind of recently, I really don't like flying. Like it just kind of, I just get really worried about it. So I don't really like doing it. So the last kind of 3 holidays I've been on, we've actually driven 2 places. So last time we went somewhere, which was 2019, we actually drove to Portugal, and I just preferred like taking my own vehicle because you can then go wherever you want and you're not restricted by like if you can get accessible transport. But it is quite a long drive. Like Portugal, it took like nearly 3 days to drive down there. So and obviously you have to arrange hotels and stuff on the way. So it does still take a lot of planning. I think that's it.
I kind of agree with what the guys have been saying about how flying it's just a lot more difficult now. But the situation like getting hoisted and getting transferred and all that. But it's quite stressful just because like a lot of the time they don't really know how to move you and stuff like that. So there's always a lot of pressure on like your carer or whoever's with you as well to kind of help out. So it's kind of unfair in terms of that as well. But yeah, we used to go quite on holiday quite a lot, like my mum and dad and stuff like that. But then obviously when you get to the age when you're like 18, 19, you don't really want to go on holiday with your mum and dad anymore. So that's kind of when it changed for me, and that's when I started to go abroad with sort of my mates. So it was me and my mate Lewis, and we both had carers. But we were both like the same age, and the 2 guys carers that were with us were like similar age as well to us, so it kind of just felt like a lad's holiday. So you can imagine the stuff. We got up to quite a lot of different things that obviously you wouldn't really do with your mum and dad about, so just like your typical going out and stuff like that. So we did all that, and I've always just really enjoyed travelling. So we've been to Amsterdam, Berlin and Barcelona just before COVID, so that was really fun. And then recently, because of COVID obviously, we've just been kind of going on local holidays. So we're going up to the Highlands where I hired like a house out with my mates and stuff like that. So I've always been really interested in travelling. So yeah, and I think it's definitely kind of brought me out my shell as well, being able to travel and do things without my mum and dad. So yeah, I guess that's a really good thing that I've been able to do that. But yeah, I think in terms of planes, I think we need to keep pushing for trying to get wheelchair access on planes, because it just seems so frustrating that we've obviously got the technology to be able to do it, but just like the airlines aren't, because obviously the cost of it is not something that they really want to do, because it would sacrifice like so many other seats. So that's something we really need to push for, because like I can't wait for the day when I can just drive onto a plane and go on holiday like everybody else. Because I think I'd be on holiday like every few months really, if I could. And I really like sort of exploring and doing things, and like my dream is to like get a big RV and just drive across America. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and go to Vegas as well, and yeah, do all that stuff. So yeah, hopefully in the next few years I can tick some of them off the bucket list, and yeah, and obviously finding out where it's accessible is a big part of organisation beforehand and stuff like that, so you can just make the most of it when you're there. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of other European countries it's a lot easier once you're there than it is here. So in terms of like public transport, then it's so much better than it is here. Like when I went to Barcelona, we just got a train and tram like everywhere pretty much, and there was no issues. Whereas when I'm at home, like Glasgow, the underground, they have like 2 stops that's accessible, so I need to like just drive everywhere. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that as well that is different in other countries, which is a good thing, I guess. So hopefully that starts changing here as well.
I've kind of forgotten what it's like to go on holiday, seeing as we've been locked away for so long. But travelling around this country, obviously as a campaigner for Changing Places toilets, it's hugely important to a lot of us. And the reasons being is because of the access that it gives us and the safe space it gives us with a Changing Places. So if you don't know what a Changing Places toilet is, it's on average a larger space with a hoist, a ceiling hoist, an adult-sized bench that can either be fixed to the wall or it can be freestanding. You also have a toilet that's central to the wall, so you're able to have access on both sides, because not everybody accesses one side, and that seems to be the issue with standard accessible toilets. You also have, we do prefer to have a height adjustable sink, but at the moment guidelines are saying it can either be fixed or height adjustable. The campaign is growing every year. We've obviously just had the 30 million funding from the government. The first round has gone, I wouldn't say swimmingly, but it's gone, it's fine. They're great. Local LAs have been very forthcoming in wanting to provide more accessible toilets because they see that there's a need. The second round, we're still waiting for the government to announce who has won toilets. But I find that if you go onto the changingplaces.org website, there is a map that has all the registered Changing Places toilets that you need. And it also, you can program your trip. So if you're coming, say, from Scotland to this conference, it would pinpoint every Changing Places along the way, which I think is amazing. There are some toilets that obviously aren't registered, some because they haven't registered with us, and some just because they're not quite to the standard that we would like to put our logo to. Travelling abroad, there's been a couple of horror stories. One to Mallorca, that was probably the holiday from hell. From the moment we got on the plane to the moment we landed, I was so glad to land back home. Just because I think they don't quite understand that when I put it down to being manhandled, because when they're lifting you from your wheelchair to the aisle chair, it's all they think they know best, they think they know where to grab you, and that's not the case. If they haven't got the equipment in the airport, then they are wrapping their arms around your chest, and sometimes it's hard for us to breathe, for me especially, and it becomes painful. There does need to be a better way, but when I go to Lanzarote, which I would recommend to everybody, because it is an incredible place, they have adapted it so well that on the 2 people that get me on and off the plane in our country to the 8 people that I have in Lanzarote, I had one person holding my head. I didn't get that in this country, which is insane to think that I have 2 people here, maybe one person, and then my husband's in the background going, please don't drop her, please don't drop her. So over there, nope, she's all yours. There's a huge difference, and we could learn so much from different countries and the way that they treat us as human beings. They give us our dignity over there, whereas over here, it's a huge struggle and it's a constant battle to either go to the toilet when we're travelling or to get on a plane. I don't know if any of you saw, there was a video that went viral of a young girl who was travelling on a plane. She had to sit on the floor of the plane and she dragged herself all the way to the toilet and nobody helped her whatsoever. How are we in an age that is classed as acceptable? That no one out of 200 passengers got out of their seat and said, or any of the people that were on that plane that work on the service, said, how can we help you? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. I think that's me. Cool.
I'm going to change it up a little bit. Is that all right, Ravi? It's going to be a bit of a positive story, if that's all right, about travel. So I was hoping that my friend was going to be here today. Unfortunately, he can't come due to some carer issues that he has. But I went on holiday with him. He has Duchenne. He is in his mid-30s, so I don't think you mind me sharing that, Ollie. Too late now. And he hadn't been on a plane for 17 years, I think it was. Something like that. And he was adamant that he really wanted to go abroad. He wanted to go on a plane again. He wanted the confidence to do that. So we decided we'd be the people to go with. And this summer, after being locked away with COVID, I understand what you're saying there, Kerry.
Grounded.
We're desperate to get away. We booked an accessible villa in Alicante. I've never been to Alicante, and we thought it'd be good to go and do, well, we're going back to our youth, I think, are we? And on Ryanair. So I thought I'd share with you the positives, the highlights of the holiday, the fact that it is possible, it can be done if you want to, and some of the things we learned as well. So we learned that Ryanair have very small planes. And we also learned that they really mean what size they want the height of your chair to be, even by the nearest millimetre. So one of the things we learned, and the tip that we learned, was that my friend decided that he didn't want the stress of them breaking his chair. And his solution to that was to go in a manual wheelchair and package up his power chair in advance. It was really smooth on the way out there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was really smooth on the way out there. On the way back, we were a little bit stressed. We didn't measure it properly. And they do make you take it apart and squash it flat. We hired an accessible villa. He was very keen that he wanted, while he was away, the comfort of having a ceiling track hoist rather than managing with a manual hoist. So we found an accessible villa that already had a ceiling track hoist and also had a profiling bed. So he was able to have the things that he has at home. He also uses a ventilator full time. So another tip that we learned was when you're in the airport, which is something that I do as well, because we have so much stuff to take on the plane, that everywhere you go, when you pick up your baggage, you count the number of pieces of items of baggage you have. So just for me and my partner Carolyn, we have 3 ventilators between us that we take on the plane, and a bag of wheelchair parts, and then 1 item of luggage. So that's 5 things to take on the plane. Oh, and some medicine. 6. So 6 bags to take on the plane, and that doesn't include me or my chair or anything like that. So every time we stop, when we get up, we count all 6 bags. My friend managed to lose his spare ventilator in the airport. There wasn't a bomb threat. Luckily, we noticed it soon enough and found it in duty free. So that's my number 1 tip, is to count your luggage, know what you've got with you, and have a method for that. To get on the plane, we used a seat called an easy travel seat, which is like a sling and has handles. And we tested that out beforehand. We had a practice run of lifting my friend with his PAs. We insisted that we brought the right amount of staff, Kerry. So that was our solution. So that we knew that he'd be lifted correctly. We wouldn't let the airline staff do it. We did it ourselves. So we had enough people with us to lift him onto the seat. We couldn't actually get down the aisle, and they moved the people on the back row. I think they wanted the plane to go, didn't they? So they did. So we just had to go into the last row seating. We had a fantastic holiday. The plane was difficult. It was challenging. But once we were there, he enjoyed being in the really warm environment. We had a hoist into the pool. I'm going to tell you this because I know that he would have if he was here. That he sent us a photo. We went out one day and he stayed back at the apartment, and he sent us a photo of him skinny dipping. And we also managed to find an accessible beach after a bit of Googling that when we got there had beach wheelchairs and a mobile hoist, which I was so surprised at, pleasantly surprised, and accessible showers and toilets with loads of space all on the beach and help to get into the sea. And so we managed to get our friend who used a ventilator full time in the sea, 1 person with ventilator in hand, the other 2 to push the chair in. And it was so warm, it's like being in a bath. It was beautiful. So yeah, I just wanted to share we hear lots of horror stories about going on a plane, and it wasn't without its trauma, was it? Another tip would be to make sure that you definitely get a letter from the airline saying that it's okay to take your ventilator on board and have it turned on. But make sure you have that in advance so that you can show them that at the other end, because if English isn't the first language, it's difficult to relay that. So I think it's all about preparation, but it is possible.
Planning, isn't it?
Yes, planning.
I think one tip I would give when you're travelling abroad is Google where there is a wheelchair rental place and scooter place, because if your chair does accidentally get broken on flight or at the airport, then you know where to go. Instead of getting to the hotel, panicking because you haven't got a chair, you automatically know where you can go to either get a replacement part if it's easy enough, or to get a replacement chair to get you through the holiday.
That was another good thing about taking a manual chair, that we had both, just in case. We crossed our fingers too.
I think it's a smooth transition to giving some tips, and then we can open it up to the floor. There's specialist web companies where they'll take disabled people on holiday. If you search on Google, there is a few companies that can help out with that. Some companies I can mention, they're kind of websites that recommends places. It's called the Ceiling Hoist Club. So if you search for that online, I think it'll come up as CHUC.
www.chuc.org.uk.
.org.uk. Yeah, so that's one place where, you know, they'll show you hotels in London that has ceiling hoists, some places abroad, not hotels, can be villas, can be all sorts of accommodations where they provide ceiling hoists, which is very important for a lot of people with Duchenne or any other neuromuscular condition. That's one place. What else can I offer? Sometimes you have to search for hotels. Like, I wanted to go to Las Vegas. I had to search for different type of hotels, like the Bellagio, and luckily it says on their website that they've got 2 rooms with a ceiling hoist, so that gives you some hope of kind of going, but unfortunately I wanted to go when the Formula One was going to be there, but sold out very quickly. But a lot of these places you have to research on your own, find out where you can go. A lot of these websites that takes you places can be very expensive. It's extortionate, but again, like we said, you have to compromise quite a lot. I know we've given quite, or some of us given negative stories, and some of us have given very positive stories, but we're just trying to be realistic and show you that, again, you have to battle a bit to go somewhere where other people wouldn't let you go. But other success stories, and I think many of you will know John Hasty. He went to Miami, and luckily I think he'll be all right for me to mention it, but his in-laws had to pay for business class tickets, and I think everyone knows how much that would be going to Miami. Very expensive, but you know, he was lucky enough to go to Miami. There's another girl with, I think she may have SMA. She wanted to go on a road trip from one side to America to the other side. So I think she did a lot of crowdfunding. She was able to go to live a dream. She was the first person lying down on the airplane and go with a ventilator. So she was the first person. Maybe that will open a lot of doors for other people to do it. But these are some success stories I can share with you. Does anyone else have any tips they'd like to share?
Yeah, so I'm just going to mention a couple of like wee practical tips that I usually do when I go on a plane. So something I remember was I always use like my chair cushion. I take it off my chair and put it on like the chair on the plane. And it just makes it so much more comfortable. Because a lot of people with Duchenne, like, they need to have the correct posture and like the right support sort of thing. So I always do that, and then I always take like as many cushions and stuff as possible, just to make myself as comfortable as possible. On the flight, because I feel like that's the hard bit, and once you get through that, then it's sort of worth it after that. So yeah, that's one tip. Just another tip. Can't remember. Think about it.
We become master planners, don't we, when we go anywhere? When we went to Lanzarote, we found, when we booked it, always ask if the travel agent has been there before. Because when we booked for the first time to Lanzarote, the travel agent we found was incredible. You know, everything when we got there, because we were a bit dubious. It's the first time I'd ever been on holiday in the Wirralls. So it was a bit of a scary thought to think we were going abroad. I couldn't walk myself, so the chair was coming. But she was spot on with everything. Everything in Lanzarote where we stayed, Costa Tees, was flat landed. Every shop we could get into, if we couldn't, they were very accommodating. The hotel was great. there was even, which I want to go back and do, there's even a underwater snorkel that they do for people in wheelchairs. So they stick you in a what they call the sand buggies type things. And so yeah, I definitely want to try that. But I would take a toolkit as well with you. That's another tip that I found from one of my friends, is that take a little toolkit in your suitcase for the, again, the just in case moments of your chair.
And gaffer tape.
And gaffer tape, yes. My mum lives by gaffer tape, I will say that. But yeah, there's little things you can do when you plan. You can, even if you are unsure of the hotel that you're staying in, email the hotel directly, because they will be accommodating if you say to them and explain that these are the things you need. Can they send photos of the room? How accessible is the hotel? How accessible is going to eat? So yeah, you will find, even if you book via somebody else, contacting the hotel is always a good option.
Thanks, guys, for giving those tips. We'll open up to the floor now. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
No, you've all talked about flying. You've not talked about the other options. So we used to take my son on a cruise, and it was just amazing because you can take everything you need with you. The accessible cabins are huge. They're a lot bigger than double the size of the normal cabin, and my son just had access to everywhere. You know, he just used to go off and I didn't see him for hours. Because you could go to a lift and there was always people around. Oh, can you press the button for the second floor? I want to go up there. And he'd go off and get pizza for himself and food and stuff. And yeah, I think the only downside on that was that some places you couldn't go ashore. Unless he went in his manual wheelchair, then that was possible. But, and I think the only downside on it is that we found that the cost of the insurance was almost as much as the fare. So that's the downside.
Yeah, I think that's one of my dreams, is to go on the cruise. I've had a lot of people with all sorts of disabilities. They've all said positive things. They've loved their experience. This is something I wouldn't mind about the cost, because I know I have a good time if you've got like 50 floors to go on. So there'll be no problems there. But I have heard some issues where, due to the pandemic, they do have issues with people on ventilators. So I would suggest you contact the cruise company directly, make sure you look at their procedures with people in ventilators, because some companies, unfortunately, have cancelled holidays for a few people that I know due to the ventilator. So I would say check on that as well. Anyone else got anything to say about cruises?
I've done P&O.
Tom, have you been on a cruise?
No.
But yeah, I think we have mentioned a lot about flying, some about driving, but yeah, cruises is another great way to start at least. Any more questions?
Yeah, you know, the flying, I mean, I get the positives and I get the negatives sort of thing, but is it about pre-planning? Somebody said about pre-planning more than anything. And is it the fear about the wheelchair more than the holiday?
Yeah. I think it's about you're not always in control of what happens when you get to the airport. So the way, in my experience, that every airport, when you get there, and depending on what shift it is, the staff have different skills and different ideas about how they should get you on and off the plane, and how your chair should be put on and off the plane. So it's something that you're not actually in control of. That I think that when I went away with my friend, because he has Duchenne and was very nervous, that we took control of it, and so we really commanded that. They wouldn't have gone anywhere near him. So, and that made me, that was much less stressful for me. When I go away on my own, the whole flight, I just worry about my chair in the hold until I've seen it at the other end and it's working. So I think it is about not being able to be in control of that. I think if you're allowed to pack it yourself, maybe it might be a little bit different. What do you think?
Yeah, I think when we fly, my husband definitely takes control of my chair and he unhooks things. They may ask for it to be hooked back in, but he's very adamant that no, you're not hooking the chair back in. You can push it manually because they're not touching anything that could possibly break, like the joystick, anything like that. But you can phone. Most airports now have either got an Eagle lifter, I think it's called. So if you book that in, that's a lot easier. But then obviously Kath said that you've got the, is it called the Easy?
I don't. Sorry, I don't.
The lift.
Yeah, and
Easy lift.
there are a number of.
There's a number of different things you can use at the airport, isn't there? You've just got to make sure you book it.
I think I would really advocate, if you need support in getting on off a seat, I would find your own travel seat, the one that works best for you, because there are a number of different companies that produce their own. There's a ProMove, an Easy Travel seat.
That's it.
There's another one as well, but there are different types. So I would find the one that works for you and fits you, and have your own, and know how to use it. Even if you do need support to be transferred over, if you're only going with one person, for example, you need help transferring over. The Eagle Travel Lift is, I should explain what that is, Kerry, is that right?
Yeah.
An Eagle Travel Lift is a hoist that can be used on a plane. I'm not entirely convinced it can be used on a little tiny Ryanair.
Probably not.
I'm not sure. I've not seen it.
I
Don't quote me on that.
I've ever seen,
But there's very little space on there. But I would really, I think that the pre-planning is really important. So find the thing that works for you. And we were planning our holiday with our friend. It was only to Alicante for 6 days, but we planned it for months and months and months in advance, right down to getting the seat, trying it out, buying one, practicing lifting in it. We even practiced taking his wheelchair apart.
So do I take it when you're flying, you've got to take, you want about manual or electric when you're taking it apart?
A chair, power chair.
Power chair.
Yeah.
Power chair.
We went on.
Are you taking it apart?
We went on a low-cost plane. You need to remember that. So we went on a low-cost plane, and they have when you buy your ticket, there is a form that fills out, and it's very clear that your chair's got to be a certain size, or it won't be allowed on his chair. Yes,
81 centimetres square it is.
It wasn't that size. We took it apart to make it that size. My chair was the right size, but I take off anything that I think that might damage. So I'll take off the controller or joystick. I take off the headrest, and I put it in the bag that I take and hold. Yeah.
With other airlines, when I've booked, so I've flown with Thomas Cook, which obviously doesn't exist anymore. TUI, we've flown with TUI. We've flown with EasyJet as well. And with them, when I've booked my chair in, they do ask for dimensions. They ask what battery you have, because there's a certain battery that they won't accept. Gel batteries is fine. But yeah, generally some airlines tape your chair. So there has been, I have heard of some horror stories of armrest breaking. Touch wood, I've never had an issue with my chair. So that's been an added bonus for us, definitely. That panic mode of, okay, where is my chair, where is my chair? And then it turns up and it's, is it okay? And then you get the thumbs up from my husband. I'm like, yay, holiday can start. But yeah, it is a case of contacting it, keeping in contact with the airline and talking to the people that are about to take your chair, because they sometimes don't remember or don't think that this is essentially, these are our legs, and it's explaining to them that this wheelchair means a lot more than just being a wheelchair with wheels.
Yeah. Do the microphone.
You right?
Just a couple of thoughts. Tom mentioned about driving, but I've got two boys' chairs. We've got flown since they're in chairs, so we might try it. But we drive down Twisty quite regularly, and you're absolutely right. You do have to plan hotels and so on. But I think someone else said actually, if you email them, they're just pretty good at telling you what they've got and what's the point. Also, I think the other point though is to remember that just standards vary in countries. Premier Inn in this country generally have really good for accessible rooms. Premier Inn in Germany are crap. Based on our experience, and when you complain, oh, it meets our standards, like, right, great, thanks. But anyway, less said about that, better. But that's, I mean, the real benefit of driving, of course, is you can take everything with you. You don't have to hire anything when you get there. You've got a big enough vehicle, and you've got your car when you get there. You're not having to arrange transport. Downside is if you break down the autobahn, then you're in trouble. Hasn't happened yet, touch wood. And on airlines, my understanding is that some of the long-haul airlines, if you're flying on a wide-body jet, they will actually put the chair in one of the baggage containers, the metal things, which of course is far better. So if you're going long-haul, it's always worth checking which airlines do that, rather than loose loading it into the hold, which is what would happen on your short-haul flights.
Yeah, I think there's much less stress on a long-haul flight because they do put it inside its own container. So you know it's just there on its own and it's safe.
Downside is just sitting 7 hours in a seat rather than 2. So.
We know that they sometimes they not guarantee them, but they upgrade you anyway because of the toilet issues. One of the chaps said about toilet rooms and dignity, things like that. That they upgrade you to the cabin areas.
I will give that a go and let you know. Next time I go on
I know
holiday.
Qantas have the Q-Straight system for anybody that has that clickering system.
Don't forget train as well, Eurostar. They do upgrade you actually. It's the wheelchair spaces are in first class.
You can get food as well. get the best stuff. Do you really?
Come on, fit it in the box now.
Yeah, Eurostar. I've not done it, but I know you do that.
We've been to France 2 times to Disney and that, and it's been quite good.
On the Eurostar?
Yeah. And we thought, I don't know if any of you, so we thought about going sort of on Eurostar, but going a bit further, probably doing like a city break or something a bit further than France, but just haven't got round to it.
Or you can get to Germany and places like that by train quite easily. You just get a train to Brussels and then you can get pretty much anywhere from Brussels or Paris for that matter.
The same sort of facility?
Yeah, sort of German trains are pretty easy sort of.
We just wanted to, Isaac just wanted to follow up on Simon's point about wheelchairs going in the metal containers. So what happened?
They took the back pole off the chair because they couldn't fit it in the hold of the plane, the metal hold of the plane.
Anything else you want to say, Isaac?
Was that it?
Okay, so yeah, they asked us for the dimensions of the wheelchair, but there's a pole for the arm support. So when we got to Heathrow, they couldn't fit it in the metal container. So what would have been really helpful to have known in advance is that they were going to put it in a metal container and to ask them instead of them asking us what dimensions wheelchair was, if they could have told us, we're going to have this plane which takes this metal container and will your wheelchair fit into it, that would have been really helpful, because then we could have taken the pole off the back before we got to Heathrow. As it was, it took them an hour to sort out how they were going to put it in the hold, and we knew that we were the pilot came on saying, we just got the last things to put in the hold, and we all looked at each other with a sinking feeling, and then they asked us to go out on the tarmac to work out how to get the chair into one of the metal containers. Meanwhile, everyone was grounded for an hour while they were working out how to do that. And if they'd just been a bit more communicative when we phoned disability assistance, we would have solved those problems before we got to Heathrow, had we known what to ask them, and had they known what to tell us. And we were quite hopping mad because a Salsa Quickie, like everyone has a Salsa Quickie, you know, it's like really, you know, it's NHS standard issue. Yeah. Sorry, you were going to say,
The poll is actually for my Litarita arm supports, but we decided not to bring them because of what Heathrow said.
I just wanted to add, I wouldn't feel bad about that delay because we were delayed by somebody that was drunk and had to be removed.
Yeah. Can I just ask a question about your Nita arms? With mine, I can unhook them. They're not actually attached to my chair permanently. So I've got a quick release. So it may be worth looking into and speaking to them and asking for a quick release on the chairs.
Can we ask you about that afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's worthwhile reaching out to the local patient organisation in the country you're travelling to. So, for instance, in Ireland, and sometimes it's not the Duchenne, but the muscular dystrophy organisation, because they have resources for a range of diseases. But in Ireland, for instance, just outside Dublin, they've got an accessible home and apartments that people can, I think they're free actually, the Muscular Dystrophy Ireland offer, which is a very nice thing to be able to stay in, because accommodation in Dublin is absolutely ridiculous. But it's all accessible, okay? And very easy from the airport and so on. Slovenia is one of the most wheelchair accessible countries in the world, and they've got a wonderful muscular dystrophy patient organisation who've really driven those initiatives. And another example is France, AFM, the French Neuromuscular Disease Organisation. So I would suggest when you're travelling, think about reaching out to the local Duchenne and Muscular Dystrophy Organisation and see how they might be able to help you with your local needs for your holiday.
That was really great, because I was about to say I've thought of my top tip, Ravi, so I didn't have one earlier on. And my tip was going to be to talk to the community, the Duchenne community, the neuromuscular community, because there are lots of people that have tips that say, I went to this amazing place. So Mark Chapman was telling us about a place he went to in the Spanish mountains that was completely accessible. So you can find out about lots of holidays. There doesn't seem to be a definitive website that will tell you where they all are, but if you talk to other people within the community, like Tom's tip about driving to Portugal, I would never have thought of doing Portugal in the car. That you can find out lots of really useful information and find out some real gems of holiday places.
There's some good accessible travel bloggers as well. You've got a couple to name. You've got Carrie-Anne Knightley. She's a great accessible blogger. She travels around. And you've also got Simply Emma. She's great as well. She does a lot of accessible abroad and in this country as well. So it's always worth definitely, you know, to reiterate, to reach out to the community and just ask.
Sorry, what was the first one you said?
You've got Carrie-Anne Knightley.
Carrie-Anne Knightley?
Yeah. And then you've got Simply Emma.
There's also Wheelie Adventures.
Oh yeah.
And she has an accessible caravan that she goes all over in, wheelchair accessible caravan.
She's good.
Facebook, there's some good accessible hotels and so forth. I can't remember the name, but I can prove.
Just going back to that question about the airlines, some airlines are quite helpful compared to others. So I know of Virgin, they have a place near Gatwick where you can go in and just demo out their airplanes and see if your wheelchair can fit through. They have different seating arrangements you can try. but they're the ones that are really pushing to help out people with disabilities. We've got a few minutes left, so we can take 1 or 2 more questions, if you have any.
Just another thought. Sorry, I come from Ireland. Of course, lots of Irish people love, like the English, to go to the sun, but they also go to some of the pilgrimage sites, you know, like Fatima, Lourdes, Medjugorje, and with, you know, with people who are in wheelchairs. But again, they've got a lot of expertise with airlines and traveling with people who've got a lot of equipment. So again, I tune into that sector as well and see what information you could learn from them. But they're used to transporting a lot of people, and they know the airlines, they know what's, you know, what works and what doesn't work. But I've never heard of people having problems. They usually arrive intact and get home intact, which is very important.
I think I would pick up on that as well. I mean, it's the horror stories that you tune into more. I'm not saying they're not real and haven't happened, but I think that does set a precedent to the preventative thought pattern for travel, or certainly an apprehension to do so, and looking at alternatives, like Angela said, with the cruise, that we were looking at that next. We thought, like, the airplane looks to be, yeah, in a general sense, horror, sort of, but
I think
there must be.
You've got to be brave, haven't you?
Yeah, I think the thing is if we continue to turn around and say, what if? That what if is just going to take over. So I think you do sometimes have to have faith that it is going to work. And as long as you've done your homework, there's nothing more that you can do. It can take 6 months to plan a 2-week holiday. It can take 2 years to plan a week's holiday. And sometimes you just have to have faith that that tick box that we have when we're travelling, that we've spoken to the people that are booking our holidays or the people that are giving us the advice, as long as we're very clear with them. And I'm hugely clear when I book a hotel. I literally go down to the toilet. Where is the toilet in the room? Where's the shower in the room? And they may seem like very tedious questions to them, but for us, that's a huge impact on a holiday if you can't access a bathroom, because let's face it, I'm a true believer in going to the toilet is the most inconvenient thing I do in my life. Having muscular dystrophy is not inconvenient.
No, but it's that communication.
It is. It's communication, yeah. So I do. I'm a list person, and I'm a planner. So I plan the list before planning the list. So I do have a tick box of everything that I need to ask different sets of people. And I have found that actually the pilot, when I get on the plane, the pilot and the air hostesses are second to none. They will bend over backwards for you. It's the people before that are the problem. So generally, if you can work out, sometimes you can see the pilot, and if you grab them and they know you're on the flight, they will actually watch, because one of the holidays we went on, the pilot came out because there was such a kerfuffle of putting me in the chair. They wanted to put me in a different chair that I was booked into. So when I book, I don't ask for bulk seats, but I get bulk seats because I tell them I'm disabled, I need extra leg room.
So you get what seats?
Bulk seats, so the ones at the front.
Okay, with the leg space.
With the leg space, yeah. So I don't book because it's obviously a lot more expensive, but I do point out to them that the bulk seat is the better option, but they never charge me for it. They charge me for a standard. So because obviously the people putting me on the plane were like, no, she can't sit there. I was like, beg to differ because I've booked. That's where I'm sitting. The pilot had to come out and say, if that's where she's booked, if that's where the airline have put her, that's where she's sitting. So it's always making sure that you are put in the right place, because sometimes they will try and put you in a different chair than what you've booked.
Hence a different expert.
Yes.
Talking about Premier Inn, the gentleman over there was saying that you always had good experiences. We used to stay in the Newcastle airport one. My son, sadly no longer with us, was on a heart trial. my wife was saying, well, in those days it wasn't that good, you know, with no hoist or anything at all. Well, a few years ago now. It might be okay now, but we didn't find it.
When I say good, I take it as a voice.
Yeah.
It's relative, I guess.
I mean, it's okay for, I hate the word able-bodied, you know, it's okay, fine, lovely breakfast, you know.
Actually, I think Premier Inn are I think they're the forerunners in hoisted
Yeah.
hotels.
Oh, lovely.
So they have, there is a hotel in London Archway, I think it is, and they have more. I think they've got more than 8 hoists in the rooms.
Yeah.
There's also a Premier Inn at London Stratford that has a hoist in one of the rooms. There's not many, but they are starting to do it. As Robbie said,
their bathrooms tend to be very good. They are. In Germany, the disabled room in the one we had, there's a pillar right down the room, you get wheelchairs, bed. I mean, so it was great fun trying to get hoisted. And if you were self-transferring, no way to get through it. But that is standards apparently.
I think some of the rooms they say they're okay for disabled, but really, you know, it's okay if you can transfer yourself and do everything, but you know,
in the real world, you know.
It's not,
You're getting older.
No, it's not.
They've always shifted us whenever we've gone into alleged accessible, and then it's not.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
It's
always
accessible, don't they?
Yeah, they've always been good enough to sort of like we'll move you within half an hour.
Yes, when you
It's something to pay for 2 rooms, I was like a room next door, or what gets me that now she seems like 19.
Tip for Premier Inn, if you need a family room, and one of your children's disabled, or an adult for that matter, apparently you're not allowed to have a family and be disabled.
That's it, yeah.
They will give you, free of charge, another room next to it, so they don't tell you, you have to ask.
Yeah.
They've got Premier Inn, they've got an accessible email address, I can't remember what it is, but email them, and that's their reasonable adjustments, give you another room.
It's quite expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Linked or?
Yeah, well, my experience has been, yeah.
Most of the time, we've had one or two in a big separate rooms, and you're like in and out of the room.
It's improved.
Thank you guys for. I know this was a very fluid conversation right at the end, but but we've come to the end of our session. I want to thank everyone who spoke today, giving their tips and their experience, and everyone who kind of spoke about their questions that they had. Now we're going to have a short break now, and at 4 p.m. in this room, we're going to do accessible gaming. Thank you very much.